Humanity's first contact. In the year 2157, humanity was on the cusp of a new age. The world had largely united under the banner of the Global Federation, ushering in an era of unprecedented peace, prosperity, and technological advancement. Little did they know that their progress had attracted the attention of someone else, someone far from friendly. Light years away, the Zorgans, a reptilian species with a penchant for conquest, watched with growing interest. They had conquered dozens of worlds, assimilating or exterminating any species that stood in their way. To them, Earth was just another notch on their belts, another primitive civilization to be subjugated. Zorax, the supreme commander of the Zorgan fleet, studied the holographic display of Earth with cold, calculating eyes. "What do we know about this species?" he hissed to his subordinate. "They call themselves humans, Supreme Commander," replied Zix, his second in command. "They are a relatively young species, but they have made significant technological strides in recent years." Zorax nodded, his scales glinting in the dim light of the command deck. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours. They will pose no significant threat." Zix hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "There is one more thing, Supreme Commander. Our analysis suggests that humans are different from the other species we have encountered. They seem to possess a remarkable adaptability and resilience." Zorax dismissed Zix's concerns with a wave of his clawed hand. "It matters not. They will fall, just like all the others. Prepare the fleet for invasion." As the Zorgan fleet set course for Earth, life on the blue planet continued as usual, blissfully unaware of the impending danger. It wasn't until the alien ships entered the solar system that the early warning systems of the Global Federation Space Agency, GSSA, triggered an alarm. Dr. Lena Sorensen, the lead astrophysicist at GSSA, was the first to see the data. Her heart raced as she double-checked the readings, hoping against hope that it was a malfunction. But the data was clear. A massive fleet of unknown origin was headed straight for Earth. Lena rushed to inform her superiors, setting off a chain reaction that reached the highest levels of the Global Federation government. Within hours, an emergency meeting of world leaders was convened. President Nadia Ivanova, the newly elected leader of the Global Federation, addressed the room with a grave expression. "We are facing an unprecedented situation," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "An unknown alien force is approaching Earth. We must prepare for the worst." As the world leaders debated their options, panic began to spread across the globe. News of the alien fleet leaked to the public, causing widespread hysteria. People flooded the streets, some seeking shelter, others rioting in despair. Amidst the chaos, the Global Federation military, GFM, mobilized its forces. General Mikhail Petrov, the supreme commander of the GFM, addressed his troops with a somber determination. "We stand on the brink of the greatest challenge humanity has ever faced," he said, his voice booming across the ranks of soldiers. "But we will not cower in the face of this threat. We will fight with everything we have to protect our home and our species, for Earth." As the GFM prepared for battle, Dr. Sorensen and her team at GSSA worked tirelessly to gather more information about the approaching alien fleet. They scanned the ships for any sign of communication, any hint of their intentions. It was then that they received the first transmission from the Zorgans. A holographic image of Zorax appeared in the command center of GSSA, his reptilian features twisted into a sneer. "People of Earth," he began, his voice dripping with disdain. "Your world now belongs to the Zorgan Empire. Resistance is futile. Surrender now and your lives may be spared. Defy us and face annihilation." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a stunned silence in its wake. President Ivanova, who had been watching the transmission alongside Dr. Sorensen, clenched her fists in defiance. "We will not surrender," she declared, her eyes blazing with determination. "We will fight for our freedom, for our right to exist. Humanity will not be cowed by these invaders." As the world prepared for war, a sense of unity swept across the globe. Old rivalries and conflicts were set aside as humanity faced its greatest threat. They knew that the coming battle would decide the fate of their species. In the heart of every human, a fire was ignited, a fierce determination to protect their home, their loved ones, and their way of life. They would not go quietly into the night. They would fight until their last breath. The stage was set for a clash of civilizations, a battle that would echo through the ages. Humanity, the underdog, against the Zorgans, the apex predators of the galaxy. It was a battle they could not afford to lose. The invasion begins. As the Zorgan fleet entered Earth's orbit, the massive alien warships cast ominous shadows across the planet's surface. The people of Earth watched in terror as the ships took position above their cities, their sleek, angular forms bristling with advanced weaponry. In the Global Federation Command Center, President Ivanova and her advisors monitored the situation with growing dread. The Zorgan ships had ignored all attempts at communication, and their intentions were clear: total domination. General Petrov, his face grim, turned to the president. "Madam President, we must act now. Every moment we delay, the Zorgans grow stronger." Ivanova nodded, her jaw set with determination. "You have authorization to engage the enemy, General. Protect our people at all costs." With a salute, Petrov turned to his staff. "Initiate Operation Defiance." Across the globe, the combined forces of the Global Federation military sprang into action. Fighter jets screamed through the skies, their pilots determined to defend their home. Ground forces mobilized, ready to repel any alien incursion. But nothing could have prepared them for the sheer might of the Zorgan invasion. The alien ships opened fire, their advanced energy weapons cutting through Earth's defenses like a hot knife through butter. Cities crumbled under the onslaught, reduced to rubble in mere moments. The skies burned as debris rained down upon the planet's surface. Amidst the chaos, the Zorgan ground forces made their move. Dropships descended from the orbiting fleet, disgorging hordes of heavily armed reptilian soldiers. They marched through the ruined streets, their advanced armor gleaming under the smoke-filled skies. The GFN forces fought bravely, but they were outmatched and outgunned. The Zorgans' superior technology and brutal tactics overwhelmed the human defenders. Soldiers fell by the thousands, their weapons useless against the aliens' advanced shielding. In the heart of New York City, Lieutenant Samantha Thompson of the GFM led her platoon in a desperate last stand. They took cover in the ruins of the once mighty skyscrapers, using the debris as makeshift barricades. "Hold the line," Samantha shouted over the din of battle. "We can't let them take this city." But even as she spoke, a Zorgan energy blast tore through their defenses, scattering the human soldiers like leaves in the wind. Samantha watched in horror as her comrades fell, their screams echoing in her ears. Similar scenes played out across the globe as the Zorgans tightened their grip on Earth. Major cities fell one by one, their defenders overwhelmed by the alien onslaught. Governments collapsed, their leaders either killed or driven into hiding. In the Global Federation Command Center, President Ivanova watched the devastation unfold with growing despair. Tears streamed down her face as she witnessed the fall of her people, the destruction of all they had built. "We can't win this," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "They're too strong." General Petrov, his uniform torn and stained with blood, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We haven't lost yet, Madam President. As long as one human still draws breath, we will fight." As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, the Zorgans had established a stranglehold on Earth. Over half the planet's population had perished, and the survivors were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered world. But even in the darkest of times, hope endured. In the ruins of their cities, in the hearts of the survivors, a fierce determination took root. They would not let the Zorgans win. They would fight, no matter the cost. Samantha Thompson, having escaped the fall of New York, led a ragtag band of survivors to a hidden bunker in the Appalachian Mountains. There, they began to plan their resistance, to find a way to strike back against their alien oppressors. "We may have lost the battle," Samantha said, her eyes blazing with resolve. "But the war is far from over. We will fight them in the streets, in the hills, in the very rubble of our cities. We will never surrender." Across the globe, other pockets of resistance formed, each determined to carry on the fight. They were the spark that would ignite the flames of rebellion, the hope that would carry humanity through its darkest hour. The Zorgans may have had superior technology, but they had underestimated one crucial factor: the indomitable human spirit. In the face of annihilation, humanity would rise, united and unyielding. The invasion had begun, but the fight for Earth's future was just getting started. Humans fight back. In the wake of the Zorgan invasion, Earth lay in ruins. The great cities of the world, once shining beacons of human achievement, were now little more than smoking piles of rubble. The aliens' advanced weaponry had cut a swath of destruction across the planet, leaving billions dead and countless more wounded or displaced. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, humanity refused to surrender. In hidden bases and underground bunkers scattered across the globe, the survivors of the Global Federation military regrouped and planned their next move. They knew they couldn't match the Zorgans in terms of raw firepower, but they had something the aliens did not: ingenuity, adaptability, and a fierce determination to protect their home. Lieutenant Samantha Thompson, now a leader of the resistance, stood before a gathered group of soldiers and civilians in a dimly lit bunker. Her face was gaunt and her eyes haunted, but her voice was strong and clear. "We can't beat them head-on," she said, gesturing to a holographic map of Zorgan positions. "But we can hurt them. We hit them where they least expect it, using guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare. We make them bleed for every inch of our planet they try to take." The assembled fighters nodded in grim agreement, their faces set with determination. They came from all walks of life: soldiers, police officers, firefighters, and ordinary civilians. But they were united in their resolve to fight back against the alien invaders. Across the globe, resistance cells sprang into action. In the ruins of London, a group of survivors lured a Zorgan patrol into a trap, using the city's ancient sewer system to ambush the aliens. In the jungles of South America, indigenous tribes used their knowledge of the land to strike at Zorgan supply lines, disappearing into the dense foliage before the aliens could retaliate. In the occupied cities, ordinary citizens took up arms against their oppressors. They sabotaged Zorgan equipment, passed intel to the resistance, and even engaged in direct combat when the opportunity arose. The Zorgans, used to cowed and submissive conquered populations, were taken aback by the ferocity and tenacity of the human resistance. As the guerrilla war raged on, the resistance began to score small but significant victories. A raid on a Zorgan supply depot yielded a trove of advanced alien weaponry, which was quickly distributed among the resistance cells. In the skies above the Sahara Desert, a lone human pilot managed to take down a Zorgan fighter using nothing but skill and daring, becoming an instant legend among the embattled human forces. But perhaps the most significant development came from the mind of Dr. Lena Sorensen, the brilliant scientist who had first detected the Zorgan invasion. Studying captured alien technology, she made a startling discovery: a potential weakness in the Zorgans' advanced shielding technology. "Their shields operate on a specific frequency," she explained to Samantha and the other resistance leaders. "If we can generate a strong enough electromagnetic pulse at that exact frequency, we might be able to disable their shields, at least temporarily." The news spread like wildfire among the resistance. Finally, they had a chance to even the odds, to strike a blow against the seemingly invincible Zorgan war machine. The resistance cells began to coordinate their efforts, working towards a single, overarching goal: to gather the necessary components and expertise to build Dr. Sorensen's EMP device. It was a daunting task, requiring raids on heavily guarded Zorgan installations and the cooperation of resistance groups across the globe. But against all odds, they succeeded. 3 months after the Zorgan invasion began, the Resistance stood ready to launch their most daring operation yet. In a coordinated strike, Resistance cells across the planet attacked key Zorgon positions, drawing the aliens' attention and resources. Meanwhile, a small team led by Samantha and Dr. Sorensen infiltrated the Zorgan's main command ship in orbit, intent on delivering the EMP device to the heart of the alien war machine. The battle was fierce and the losses heavy, but the humans pressed on with grim determination. In a final, desperate push, they breached the command ship's defenses and planted the EMP device. The effect was immediate and devastating. The EMP pulse ripped through the Zorgan fleet, disabling their shields and wreaking havoc on their advanced systems. On the ground, the alien soldiers found themselves suddenly vulnerable, their advanced armor useless against the onslaught of human weaponry. Across the globe, the Resistance surged forward, emboldened by the sudden turn of events. They pushed the disoriented and weakened Zorgans back, liberating city after city in a wave of human defiance. The Zorgans, for the first time in their long history of conquest, found themselves on the defensive. They had underestimated the tenacity and resourcefulness of the human species, and now they were paying the price. But even as the tide of battle turned in humanity's favor, the Zorgans were far from defeated. In the depths of their command ship, Zorax, the Supreme Commander, seethed with rage and humiliation. "These primitives think they have won," he hissed to his subordinates, "but they have only awakened the full might of the Zorgan Empire. We will crush them and grind their bones to dust." As the Zorgans regrouped and prepared for a devastating counterattack, the humans celebrated their hard-won victories, knowing full well that the war was far from over. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would not go quietly into the night, that they would fight tooth and nail for their right to exist. The battle for Earth had entered a new phase, and the stubborn, unyielding spirit of humanity would be put to the ultimate test. Exploiting the alien weakness. In the aftermath of the successful EMP attack, the human resistance had gained a foothold against the Zorgan invaders. The aliens' advanced technology, once in seemingly insurmountable advantage, had been turned against them, if only for a brief moment. But the humans knew that this reprieve would be short-lived. They had to capitalize on the Zorgans' temporary vulnerability and press their advantage. In hidden labs and makeshift workshops across the globe, human scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the Zorgan technology. Led by Dr. Lena Sorensen, they studied captured alien devices and weapons, reverse engineering them to understand their inner workings. The EMP was just the beginning. Dr. Sorensen said to her team of scientists, her eyes gleaming with determination, "If we can understand how their technology works, we can find more ways to exploit it, to turn their own weapons against them." It was a race against time, as the Zorgans worked to repair their damaged systems and shore up their defenses. In the ruins of Geneva, a team of human engineers worked around the clock to replicate and improve upon the EMP device, creating portable versions that could be used by the resistance fighters on the front lines. Meanwhile, resistance cells across the planet began to coordinate their efforts for a worldwide assault against the Zorgans. They knew that the window of opportunity was narrow, and that they had to strike hard and fast before the aliens could fully recover. Lieutenant Samantha Thompson, now a key leader in the resistance, worked with her fellow commanders to develop a plan of attack. They identified key Zorgan strongholds and supply lines, targeting them for simultaneous strikes to maximize the impact. "We hit them everywhere at once," Samantha explained to her fighters, pointing to a global map of Zorgan positions. "We use the EMP devices to disable their shields, and then we hit them with everything we've got. We don't stop until every last Zorgan is driven from our planet." As the day of the assault approached, tension and anticipation grew among the human forces. They knew that this was their chance to turn the tide of the war, to show the Zorgans the true strength of human determination. When the moment finally came, the attack was swift and brutal. Across the globe, resistance fighters struck at the Zorgon positions, using the portable EMP devices to disable the aliens' shields before engaging them in fierce close-quarters combat. In the streets of Beijing, a team of Chinese resistance fighters lured a column of Zorgon tanks into a narrow alley, disabling them with a well-placed EMP device before destroying them with salvaged anti-tank weapons. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes used their knowledge of the terrain to ambush Zorgon patrols, picking them off one by one in a series of deadly guerrilla attacks. At the heart of the assault was a daring raid on the Zorgon's central command ship, still in orbit around Earth. A team of elite human fighters, led by Samantha herself, used captured Zorgon shuttles to infiltrate the ship, fighting their way to the core of the vessel. Their objective was to plant a specially designed virus into the ship's main computer, a virus that Dr. Sorensen and her team had created to exploit a previously unknown vulnerability in the Zorgon's computer systems. If successful, the virus would spread to every Zorgon ship and device on Earth, disabling their advanced technology and rendering them vulnerable. The battle on board the command ship was fierce and bloody, with the human team taking heavy casualties. But they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that the fate of their planet hung in the balance. In a final, desperate push, Samantha and her remaining fighters reached the ship's central computer core. As Zorgon reinforcements closed in around them, Samantha uploaded the virus, watching as it began to spread through the alien systems like a digital wildfire. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the planet, Zorgon weapons and devices shut down or malfunctioned, their advanced systems crashing under the onslaught of the human-made virus. On the ground, the resistance fighters pressed their advantage, overwhelming the disoriented and weakened Zorgon forces. In orbit, the Zorgon command ship began to break apart, its systems failing one by one. Samantha and her team fought their way back to their shuttles, barely escaping as the massive vessel exploded behind them. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the scale of the human victory became clear. The Zorgon forces, once thought invincible, lay shattered and defeated, their advanced technology turned against them by the ingenuity and determination of the human species. But even as the resistance celebrated their triumph, they knew that the war was far from over. In the depths of space, Zorgon reinforcements were already on their way, vowing revenge for their defeat. Humanity had won a major battle, but the war for Earth's survival was about to enter its darkest and most deadly phase yet. The aliens regroup. In the cold depths of space, the Zorgon reinforcements received the distress call from their beleaguered forces on Earth. Zorax, the Supreme Commander, had been killed in the destruction of the command ship, along with a significant portion of the Zorgon leadership. The news of their defeat at the hands of the primitive humans spread through the fleet like wildfire, stoking the flames of rage and humiliation. Zargax, Zorax's second-in-command, assumed control of the Zorgon forces. He was a ruthless and cunning warrior, even by Zorgon standards, and he burned with a desire for vengeance against the upstart humans who had defied them. "These humans have made a grave mistake," Zargax hissed to his subordinates, his eyes blazing with malice. "They think they have won, but they have only sealed their own doom. We will make them suffer for this insult." As the Zorgon fleet advanced towards Earth, Zargax and his scientists worked to analyze and counter the humans' EMP technology and computer virus. They developed new shielding techniques and software safeguards, determined not to fall victim to the same tricks twice. On Earth, the human resistance celebrated their hard-won victory, but they knew that their respite would be brief. Dr. Sorensen and her team of scientists worked around the clock to analyze the data from the Zorgon command ship, trying to anticipate the aliens' next move. "They'll be back," Dr. Sorensen warned Samantha and the other resistance leaders. "And they'll be better prepared this time. We need to keep innovating, keep finding new ways to fight back." The resistance began to fortify their positions, stockpiling weapons and supplies for the inevitable Zorgon counterattack. They'd reached out to the surviving pockets of humanity around the globe, sharing their knowledge and resources in a united front against the alien threat. When the Zorgan fleet finally arrived in Earth's orbit, they unleashed a devastating assault unlike anything the humans had seen before. The aliens' new weapons tore through the Earth's atmosphere, leveling entire cities in seconds. Their enhanced shields shrugged off the humans' EMP devices, and their computer systems, hardened against the human virus, coordinated the assault with ruthless efficiency. On the ground, the Zorgan forces advanced with a renewed sense of purpose and brutality. They burned and killed everything in their path, determined to crush the human resistance once and for all. In the face of this onslaught, the human forces fought bravely but were pushed back on all fronts. They retreated to their hidden bases and bunkers, fighting desperate rearguard actions to slow the Zorgan advance. Samantha and her team found themselves besieged in a fortified bunker in the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by Zorgan forces. They fought day and night, repelling wave after wave of alien attackers, but their supplies and ammunition dwindled with each passing hour. "We can't hold out much longer," Samantha said to Dr. Sorensen, her voice hoarse with exhaustion and despair. "We're running out of options." Dr. Sorensen, her face lined with fatigue and worry, nodded grimly. "There might be one last chance," she said, pulling up a schematic on a battered computer screen. "A weapon I've been working on, a last resort. But it's risky, and it's not yet complete." Samantha leaned in, studying the schematic with a mix of hope and trepidation. "What is it?" "A quantum resonance device," Dr. Sorensen explained. "In theory, it could disrupt the fundamental forces that hold the Zorgan's molecular structure together. It could literally tear them apart at the atomic level." Samantha's eyes widened. "That sounds powerful and dangerous." "It is," Dr. Sorensen agreed, "and there's no guarantee it will work. But at this point, what do we have to lose?" As the Zorgan forces closed in around them, Samantha and Dr. Sorensen worked feverishly to complete the quantum resonance device. It was a race against time, with each passing minute bringing the Zorgans closer to their final victory. Across the planet, the remaining pockets of human resistance fought on, even as their situation grew more desperate by the day. They clung to the hope that somewhere, someone would find a way to turn the tide, to deliver them from the brink of annihilation. In the heart of the besieged bunker, as the walls shook and the lights flickered under the unrelenting Zorgan assault, Samantha and Dr. Sorensen exchanged a look of grim determination. "It's ready," Dr. Sorensen said, her hand hovering over the activation switch of the quantum resonance device. Samantha nodded, her grip tightening on her weapon. "Then let's end this once and for all." The fate of humanity hung in the balance as the two women prepared to make their final stand. The Zorgans, in their arrogance and cruelty, had pushed the humans to the brink. But in doing so, they had awakened a fierce and unyielding determination in the human spirit. The battle for Earth was about to reach its climax, and the outcome would determine the fate not just of a planet, but of an entire species. Humanity's last stand. In the heart of the Rocky Mountains, in a fortified bunker that had become the last bastion of human resistance, Samantha and Dr. Sorensen prepared to activate the quantum resonance device. It was a moment of truth, a final roll of the dice in a war that had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. Outside the bunker, the Zorgan forces gathered, their weapons trained on the human stronghold. Zargax, the Zorgan commander, stood at the front of his army, his eyes glinting with anticipation. "This ends now," he hissed, his voice dripping with malice. "We will crush these humans and grind their bones to dust." Inside the bunker, Samantha and her fighters steeled themselves for the final assault. They knew that the quantum resonance device was their last hope, but they also knew that activating it would require a sacrifice. "The device needs to be planted at the heart of the Zorgan hive," Dr. Sorensen explained, her voice tight with tension. "It's the only way to ensure maximum impact." Samantha nodded grimly, understanding the implications. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady with resolve. "I'll take a team and fight our way to the hive." Dr. Sorensen shook her head. It's a suicide mission, Samantha. The probability of survival is— I know the odds, Samantha interrupted, placing a hand on Dr. Sorensen's shoulder. But this is what we've been fighting for. This is our chance to end this war, once and for all. As Samantha and her team prepared for their final mission, the rest of the human forces mobilized for a last-ditch effort to buy them time. They knew that they were outnumbered and outgunned, but they were determined to fight to the last. In a coordinated assault, the human fighters attacked the Zorgon positions, drawing their fire and attention away from the strike team. It was a brutal and bloody battle, with the humans taking heavy casualties but refusing to yield. Samantha and her team, armed with the quantum resonance device and a fierce determination, fought their way through the chaos, inching closer to the Zorgon hive. They faced wave after wave of Zorgon defenders, each more determined than the last to stop the human advance. In the heart of the hive, Zargax watched the battle unfold with growing frustration. He had underestimated the humans' resolve, and now his forces were being pushed back. Enough of this, he snarled, turning to his elite guard. We will crush these humans ourselves. As Zargax and his guard prepared to enter the fray, Samantha and her team finally reached the heart of the hive. They were battered and bloodied, but still standing, still determined to see their mission through. Plant the device, Samantha ordered, her voice ragged with exhaustion. I'll hold them off. As her team worked to set up the quantum resonance device, Samantha faced down the oncoming Zorgon forces. She fought with a ferocity born of desperation, driven by the knowledge that the fate of her species hung in the balance. Just as the device was armed and ready, Zargax and his elite guard burst into the chamber. They were formidable opponents, their advanced armor and weapons glinting in the dim light. Samantha and her team fought with everything they had, but they were outmatched. One by one, they fell to the Zorgon onslaught, their sacrifices buying precious seconds for the device to activate. In the end, it was Samantha and Zargax, locked in a final, fateful confrontation. They fought hand-to-hand, their battle a microcosm of the larger war that had consumed their species. You fight well, for a primitive, Zargax sneered, his claws raking across Samantha's armor. But in the end, you will fall, like all the others. Samantha, bloodied but unbowed, met Zargax's gaze with a fierce defiance. Maybe, she said, her voice ringing with conviction, but not before we take you with us. With a final, desperate effort, Samantha lunged at Zargax, knocking him back into the quantum resonance device. The device, already straining with the power it contained, exploded in a blinding flash of light. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. The quantum wave rippled outward, tearing through the Zorgon hive like a wildfire. Zorgon soldiers and ships alike were ripped apart at the molecular level, their screams of agony echoing through the suddenly silent battlefield. Across the planet, the remaining Zorgon forces convulsed and collapsed, their hive-mind connection severed by the device's quantum disruption. In a matter of moments, the invincible Zorgon army had been reduced to dust and echoes. In the heart of the shattered hive, Samantha lay broken and dying, her mission completed. As her vision faded, she thought of all those who had fought and died to make this moment possible, of the indomitable human spirit that had refused to yield in the face of annihilation. We did it, she whispered, a faint smile on her bloodied lips. We won. And with those final words, Lieutenant Samantha Thompson, hero of the human resistance, passed into legend. The war was over, but the cost had been immense. Billions had died, and the planet lay in ruins. But humanity had survived, against all odds, against an enemy that had sought to exterminate them. In the aftermath of the quantum resonance blast, the surviving humans emerged from their bunkers and hiding places, blinking in the unfamiliar sunlight of a world suddenly free from Zorgon oppression. They had fought the alien invaders with courage, determination, and ingenuity, and they had prevailed. The road to recovery would be long and hard, but the human spirit, tempered in the fires of war, would endure. The legend of their victory would spread far beyond the confines of Earth, a testament to the strength and resilience of a species that had looked into the face of annihilation and refused to blink. Humanity had taken its first step into the larger cosmos, and the galaxy would never be the same. Apex predators humbled. In the aftermath of the quantum resonance blast, a stunned silence descended upon the Earth. The once mighty Zorgon fleet, the scourge of 100 worlds, lay in ruins, their ships drifting lifeless in orbit. On the ground, the remnants of the Zorgon army, bereft of their hive-mind connection and their technological superiority, surrendered en masse to the human resistance. It was a victory beyond hope, a triumph of the human spirit over impossible odds. But it was a victory tinged with sorrow, bought with the blood of countless brave men and women who had given their lives in defense of their home and their species. In the days and weeks that followed, the survivors emerged from their bunkers and hiding places, blinking in the sunlight of a world freed from Zorgon oppression. They looked upon the ruins of their cities, the shattered remnants of their civilization, and they wept for all that had been lost. But even in their grief, they found solace in each other, in the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of war. They came together, human and Zorgon alike, to rebuild and to heal. For the Zorgons, defeat at the hands of the humans was a bitter pill to swallow. They had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, another primitive species to be subjugated and absorbed into their empire. Instead, they had found a foe unlike any they had ever faced, a species that refused to submit, that fought back with a tenacity and ingenuity that shook the very foundations of Zorgon society. In the wreckage of their command ship, the surviving Zorgon leaders gathered to contemplate their future. They had been humbled, their aura of invincibility shattered, and they knew that the news of their defeat would spread like wildfire through the galaxy. "We have lost more than a battle here," one of the leaders said, his voice heavy with resignation. "We have lost the very essence of what made us Zorgon, our pride, our certainty, our place at the apex of the galactic order." "Perhaps," another replied, "but in losing, we may have gained something more valuable. A new understanding, a new perspective on the nature of the universe and our place within it." And so, in an act that would have been unthinkable mere months before, the Zorgons sued for peace. They approached the humans not as conquerors, but as equals, seeking to forge a new relationship based on mutual respect and cooperation. For the humans, the offer of peace was greeted with cautious optimism. They had fought too long and lost too much to trust easily, but they also recognized the opportunity for a new beginning. Under the leadership of Dr. Sorensen and the surviving members of the resistance, humanity embarked on a new era of rebuilding and exploration. They reached out to the stars, seeking out other species, other civilizations, armed with the knowledge and confidence gained through their trials. They became known throughout the galaxy as the species that had defied the odds, that had faced the apex predators of the universe, and emerged victorious. Their story became a legend, a rallying cry for all those who faced oppression and tyranny. And at the heart of that legend were the heroes who had made it all possible. Samantha Thompson, who had given her life to ensure humanity's victory. Dr. Lena Sorensen, whose brilliant mind had unlocked the secrets of the quantum resonance device. And countless others, soldiers and civilians alike, who had fought and bled and died for the cause of freedom. Their names were etched into monuments and memorials, their deeds passed down from generation to generation. They became the stuff of myth and inspiration, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. As for the Zorgons, they too were forever changed by their encounter with Earth. Chastened and humbled, they withdrew from their empire building, turning their efforts instead to diplomacy and peaceful coexistence. They became valued allies of humanity, their advanced technology and knowledge shared freely in the spirit of cooperation. Together, humans and Zorgons explored the wonders of the cosmos, facing new challenges and opportunities with a shared sense of purpose. They had learned, through the bitter lessons of war, that true strength lay not in conquest and domination, but in unity and understanding. 50 years after the Zorgon invasion, and elderly Dr. Sorensen stood before a vast crowd gathered at the dedication of the Samantha Thompson Memorial. The gleaming structure, a soaring spire of crystal and light, stood as a testament to the sacrifices and triumphs of the past. "We stand here today," Dr. Sorensen said, her voice strong and clear despite her years, "not just to remember what we have lost, but to celebrate what we have gained. Through our trials, we have discovered the true measure of our strength, not as individuals, but as a species united." She looked out over the sea of faces, human and Zorgan alike, all united in a shared moment of remembrance and hope. "We have learned that no challenge is too great, no foe too powerful when we stand together. We have learned that the human spirit, in all its diversity and resilience, is the greatest force in the universe. And so, as we go forward into the unknown, let us carry with us the lessons of our past. Let us face the future with courage, with compassion, and with the unshakable conviction that, together, there is nothing we cannot achieve." As the crowd erupted in applause, as the first strains of the Earth Anthem swelled through the air, Dr. Sorensen looked up at the stars above, her heart filled with pride and hope. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers and peacemakers. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, a shining beacon of what was possible when courage and compassion triumphed over fear and aggression. The age of the apex predators had ended. The age of humanity had begun.